What's up, friends? Welcome to SPDM TV. My name is Mike, part of the SPDM crew, and I watch a lot of TV. We talk about various TV topics, reviews, and general appreciation of TV, past and new. You can follow me on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Serialized at MLHT2452 to see what all I'm watching. So, way back when, and by way back when, I mean a couple of years ago, it's not like it's that long. I used to write for a website where they gave me the opportunity to podcast. And what I did was that I'm taking a look at some of these episodes that I did before and looking to see if I can kind of introduce them to a new audience. So I am going to do a series where I release some of those episodes just so that I can showcase just some of the past work that I've done. M. Hilty, we are talking about the show Atlanta. Atlanta just wrapped up season 4 in November after a very interesting season 3 that occurred earlier this year. But Atlanta was created by series star, series writer, series generally everything, Donald Glover, and we follow a group of aspiring rappers led by Paperboy, who's played by Brian Tyree Henry, his cousin Earn, who is played by Donald Glover, manages him along with his friend Darius, who's played by Lakeith Stanfield. So as Paperboy kind of starts to progress in his career as a rapper, he, you know, starts to go on tour, starts to become more successful, and it just kind of talks about just what it's like to be a rapper in the Atlanta rap scene, along with just various other commentaries about what it means to be African American in just modern US right now. So Atlanta, you could check out Atlanta on Hulu currently. This past season was 10 episodes, originally airing on FX, but now it could be streamed on Hulu. So right off the bat with Atlanta season 4. Before we talk about that, we got to talk about at least a little bit of season 3. Season 3 was a very experimental season. It definitely was not for everybody because it was very much on the surreal side. It was very experimental from Donald Glover. Lots and lots of interesting things to say. Yes, I get it. Since the majority of the season takes place, well, I think all of the season actually takes place in Europe. There's a lot of interesting things going on. Donald Glover just went crazy with trying to be super creative with it. It was definitely a departure from what the show is typically like when it's contained in Atlanta, just or in the surrounding areas. But it was definitely something that it was just very interesting. I personally I liked it. I gave it a lot of marks for swinging for the fences because Donald Glover has never been somebody who has attempted or who has wanted a show just to be conventional. He's got a lot to say about stuff. That's something in particular about season 3 that I gave him a lot of credit for because in season 3 he had a lot of these. One of Atlanta's trademark episodes is they have these kind of like somewhat standalone episodes where they don't really have anything to do with the general plot, but they have something that they want to say that Donald Glover finds really important. And with all the things that were going on in the U.S. between the end of or when season 2 aired, which was in 2018, to when season 3 aired in 2022, a lot of things happened. So there was the latter half of Donald Trump's presidency. The pandemic was raging during that time. George Floyd was murdered by police officers in Minnesota, in the US. So obviously, there's a lot that Donald Glover had on his mind, had a lot to say, and he put a lot of what he had to say into Atlanta. And there's a lot of really great episodes in season 3 that were some standalone ones. Again, very experimental, definitely not for everybody, but it's still something it's worth checking out just for the ambition that that it takes. So with season 4 of Atlanta, the fourth and final season, I think I immediately knew in the premiere episode of season 4 that I was going to like it. It sounds bad to say that it was a return to form because Atlanta doesn't really have a form. It's just, it's not like your typical sitcom or anything like that. there's just a lot of different elements that's going on. But season four starts with Lakeith Stanfield's character Darius trying to return something at a Target store, and the Target store is being looted. And there is a store employee there that doesn't believe him when he says he's looking to return something, and she pretty much, thinks that he's just one of the people who's looting the store, doesn't really give him the benefit of the doubt. And he tries to say, no, I'm returning it. Here's, I don't have my receipt, but you just got to trust me on this. The woman is ambushed unfortunately, by a lot of other people because she's in a wheelchair, and she's ambushed by people with a fire extinguisher, and she spends the rest of the episode gunning for Lakeith Stanfield. He, just you could just hear the electric wheelchair go as she is trying to get him to return the air fryer that he's trying to return, try to put it down so that in her view, he's trying to steal it. And that's when I knew that I was really going to like season four, because that episode, that moment in that episode, rather, was going to be saying a lot of really interesting things, and it was hilarious too. That as Darius is just weaving in and out of Atlanta traffic, and he finds himself just trying to escape this target worker. She's just chasing him all around Atlanta through traffic, through alleys, through pretty much everything. And as ridiculous as that sounds, it's actually quite funny. And again, that's when I knew that this is. I felt like this was kind of harkening back to the days when season one and season two of Atlanta were really good. So with season four was a little bit more of a linear story, or not linear story, but a little bit more of a straightforward story. We didn't really have very many standalone episodes. I will get to the one standalone episode because I really enjoyed it, but for the most part, season four has to do with a lot of the things that are going on with our three, four main characters. If you also include Ern's on again, off again, girlfriend, love interest, Van, played by Zazie Beetz, and their child together as well. So we have some really solid moments and some really great opportunities for Donald Glover just to show his acting chops in this season. So each of the characters usually take turns being the main character for a particular episode. It's just nice. It's a nice reminder as well to show that, hey, for a while, Ern was the focus of this entire show. Even though Paperboy was the successful one of the bunch, but Ern was the manager. Ern was kind of the main character, and he has a couple episodes in particular where he is the main person that we're focusing on, and there's some things that Ern is going through in terms of just all the things that he's had to put up with over the last couple of years. We we have an episode where Ern is in therapy, and the relationship that he strikes with his therapist was really great and really fascinating about what exactly is going on with him and how his stress and anxiety is taking a toll on him and what he's going to do about it. And this there's a certain level and a certain degree of maturity that we're seeing from Ern in season four. We don't see the same irresponsible person that we've seen in past seasons, kind of the slacker, the one that's maybe not living up to the potential that Ern had when he was at this fancy prep school, or not fancy prep school, but fancy Ivy League school, because he was really smart. We finally find out why exactly he was kicked out of his college. Kind of a heartbreaking story that Ern tells, and we just learn a lot about who he is, the type of person that he is, and Donald Glover just does such an amazing job of not only focusing on things like the comedy aspects, but just this also felt like just a more down to earth, mature Ern character. And thus, in turn, I think it kind of mimics what Donald Glover himself is going throughout the process of this show as well, is that as Donald Glover has gotten the chance to, be somebody who has written, created, pretty much done a lot. He's directed a couple episodes, done a lot for this particular show. It's kind of showcased his maturity an artist, as a writer, as a performer, everything like that. I've been a Donald Glover fan ever since he was doing stand up. I loved him in the show Community as well. That's the first thing that I really got to watch where I knew that this guy immensely talented and just somebody who we're going to have to watch out for in terms of just him being successful in the future. And this is a show by far that showcases a lot of Donald Glover's strengths, which pretty much the guy is a Swiss Army knife. He can do pretty much anything that he wants, and it's going to be successful, and it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be something that is just really, really, really great. Yeah, in addition to Donald Glover, I have to give a lot of credit to Brian Tyree Henry as well for this season, because we have a couple scenes where Paperboy is the main character for his own episodes. And one of the things that there's a kind of recurring theme for him is that he is somebody that wants to just continue to build his legacy of being a talented performer, but he also recognizes that for the industry that he's in, that the potential for his life to be in jeopardy, it's definitely a thing, unfortunately. And we see that first and foremost in the first episode, and even later on in the season as well, where he kind of has to come face to face with the fact that there are a lot of people that he either knows or he just reads about or anything like that that have passed away as a rapper, whether it's because of things like drugs, or if they're killed. He recognizes that it's something that he just needs to just keep in mind and be cognizant of, and he's internalizing this as well. So you see that in the first season where Paperboy, there's a rapper that he used to know, or somebody that he maybe not so much knew personally, but somebody who came up in the rap game around the same time that he did. And he dies, and he goes to his funeral, and he just has this really introspective moment where he's struggling with this, and just it's really great to see Ryan Tyree Henry getting some great moments, and just some really strong, just strong character beats. And don't get me wrong, everybody in this show has, really funny moments and everything like that too. But I think Brian Tyree Henry and Donald Glover in particular this season, they are doing some great stuff there. They do have some, accolades for. I think that this show, and maybe even this season, deserves a little bit of recognition for, all the great stuff that they're doing this season. But I think these two in particular are the ones that carry a lot of the weight for this season. I think, for Paperboy, episode 9, the penultimate episode, shows Paperboy going to the country, and just, getting a chance to clear his head and everything like that. And he does come to a moment where he's not sure he's going to make it out, and it just kind of gives that new perspective on life, where he just, the instances where his life are in jeopardy. There's two instances in particular. There's season the penultimate episode, and then one later on where somebody it's the storyline is hilarious, where there is a killer on the loose in Atlanta who is killing people who made videos involving the song "Crank That Soldier Boy" back in the late 2000s. And sure enough, Paperboy has a video like that, because why wouldn't he, at that point, being a fan of the show, or not the show, a fan of the song. So there's a moment where, he thinks he's going to get shot or be found and shot by this Crank That killer, as it is deemed in the show. and he just comes face to face with mortality on a few different occasions in this season, and it just it's just it's really interesting. It's hilarious too, but it is really interesting. Two characters that kind of get relegated a little bit to background characters, Darius and Van. Yes, I do realize that that's kind of what they have been for the show, where Darius is somebody who doesn't get very many chances to have the spotlight, and when he does, it's mainly for comedic relief. But there's just a lot of poignance in some of the things that he has to say, particularly in the last episode of this season, where he's talking about just what it means to be alive and just what it means to have relationships in humans. And all the credit in the world has to go to Lakeith Stanfield for just such a nuanced performance, and just somebody who just maximizes the opportunities that he does get when he gets them. And then Van, on the other hand, doesn't get very many opportunities. She has an episode of her own, involving like her on a TV set with her daughter. That it's funny. That episode in particular is not so much for Van herself to be a featured player, but it is more of an episode that just demands a little bit more spotlight on, what it means to be in Hollywood and everything like that. So take that for what it's will. But the moments in particular with Van and Earn this season, these two, I think one of my favorite parts of this past season are the opportunities that we do get to listen and kind of just be involved with Van and Ern's relationship, because their relationship throughout the course of this show has always had ups and downs. It's always it's always been super hard, but this season we kind of see them get to like settle down a little bit. And there's an episode where they go camping with their daughter, and it's just a rare moment where we hear Ern just lay it all out there in one of those speeches where, I don't know, to me it'll go down as one of those great. He doesn't actually say I love you to her, because she knows how much he loves her and everything like that, but it will go down as one of those great, you know, hey, I'm laying it all out there. I'm confessing, this is how I feel and everything like that. And I just want to be with you. That is what's most important to me right now. And I did love that part, or the parts of this season, when it came to Van and Ern. There's one standalone episode of this season, and it is kind of like a mockumentary, or a kind of a pseudo documentary of, there is somebody who, there's just this random animator at Disney who got to be, or he was voted in as CEO. Just weird little surprise, and he had one big ambitious plan, is that he wants to create the quote unquote blackest animated movie ever, and it turns out to be a Goofy movie. Now, this is me having a little bit of bias about that, because I love the movie A Goofy Movie. I love it. I love the story. I love and particularly the music. I love the songs by Powerline. I love, love, love all of that. So that's probably what I liked about it the most, that, giving a Goofy movie a little bit more of a platform for people to recognize that, hey, this is a really great movie. But it just has such strong commentary about what it has to say about African American men, particularly in Hollywood, and just how just they're treated differently and how they're viewed differently. And that's something in particular that I'm going to miss most about the show Atlanta, is that the commentary and what it has to say about what it means to be African American in modern, late 20 teens, early 2020s, the struggles, just all the things that African Americans have to go through. And look, I'm never going to know what that is like, because I'm a white guy living in suburban United States. I'm never going to understand that. but that's, I think, one thing that I appreciate about shows like this is that it does give me a glimpse as to what exactly it means, even if it is in a satirical sense or an extreme sense, about what it means to be African American in modern day US. And all the credit in the world for just such a creative, such an ambitious, just something that just is always, Atlanta's a show that's going to be known for always trying to swing for the fences, to try to, do something that you haven't seen before on television, which is a rare thing. You don't get that very often when it comes to television, because everything has been done to death, but Atlanta stands out as something that was trying to do something different. It will also go down as one of those shows that has perhaps one of the greatest casts of all time, because you have four amazing performers who are now, moving on to be in, variety of different types of movies. Like, all four of them have just had successful careers beyond being on Atlanta. And I I think what I'm just going to remember about the show is just how special it was, and just how it's bold and different, and something that, again, just cements for me that Donald Glover is just one of those most amazing performers that is just going to have just some amazing moments, and just something that I'm going to continually remember for everything that he did this past season. So without further ado, I'm gonna rattle off just my top five favorite episodes of Atlanta. Shockingly enough, a bunch of these episodes did come from season four. So say take that for what you will. I would encourage you to watch all of Atlanta because it is a great show. It's also a quick watch as well, because each episode is about usually around half an hour long, if not maybe just a tad bit longer, and 10 episodes per season. So it'll go by super quick. But number five for me is actually the series finale of Atlanta. It was called "It Was All a Dream," season four, episode 10. So just what a great way for Atlanta just to stick the landing in terms of what kind of show it wants to be, and just what it wants to leave behind. The main premise of the show is that we have Darius, who's at a sensory deprivation tank business, I guess, and Van, Paperboy, and Earn are at their supporting and a fellow African American business owner who owns a sushi fusion shop. But all of them, all they want is the Popeyes chicken across the street. And just, it just goes to show, just, we don't need a flashy goodbye or anything like that. I'm going to give Atlanta a lot of credit for just staying true to its identity, and just, offering up some commentary, while also at the same time just staying true to what the show is. Just something that's super creative, has a lot of good things to say, and also really funny as well. So number five, It Was All a Dream, season four, episode 10. Number four is the episode I just talked about, which is The Goof Who Sat by the Door, season four, episode 8. This is the standalone episode that kind of involves a behind the music style documentary, where we're looking at Thomas Washington, who's played by Eric Berryman, who ascends to the CEO of Disney during the renaissance of the early 1990s and late 1980s. But he wants to make what he calls the blackest movie of all time from Disney, which is a Goofy movie. And it's such a interesting episode, where again it talks about just what it means to be, a black man in Hollywood, particularly at Disney. I don't know if this was a direct shot at Disney, since FX owns Disney. I don't know. I think that kind of just adds to just the hilarity of the episode. But yeah, it's still something that I give them a lot of credit. And also, it's propping up a Disney movie I love, a Goofy movie. Again, more people need to watch it. Anyways, number three is of the episode called Fubu, which is season two, episode 10. Gives us some much needed and just kind of some nice backstory about Earn and Alfred, he who eventually becomes Paperboy. Before Ern was Alfred or was Paperboy's manager, they were just cousins, and just showing them in school struggling with things like bullying and just their socioeconomic status and just how hard it is just to be a kid who just middle school and high school in general is just tough for people, but for people who kind of have things a little bit more tough on the family end, whether their parents are struggling to make some money or they can't always afford nice things or whatever, it's hard because let's just call it what it is. Kids can be jerks sometimes. So it kind of just shows how, Alfred, even back then, always had Ern's back. And that's something that has been an important thing throughout the course of the show because, as Paperboy was, starting to become more successful and he was, looking just to take his career to the next level. He could have chosen a lot of different people for him to be for him to be his manager, but he chose Ern because Ern earned it. Yeah, I see what I did there. He earned the spot, but he also did a great job, and just it's just a great way just to show what it means just to be loyal to the group of people that you grew up with and everything like that. And it's just just a testament to just how sometimes just a little bit of backstory does help give some context as to why these people are the way that they are. Number two, the aforementioned Crank That Killer episode of the season 4, episode 6, watching Brian Tyree Henry dance to the Soldier Boy song, Crank That, which I'm not going to lie, I love that song. I love doing that dance. I loved it. But then just the other kind of like B story for this was that you have Ern and Darius looking for a fancy new pair of sneakers, and just shows just why it's important to have like certain sets of sneakers and why sneaker culture is definitely a thing. It has This episode also has probably one of my favorite and funniest moments from season 4 and maybe the entire series, where Darius and Ern are put themselves in a situation where they have to do something in order to get these new sneakers. And let's just put it this way: anytime that a show can incorporate somehow the song "All My Life" by Casey and JoJo, I'm here for it. So I appreciated that. Number one, the best episode of this entire series was the episode entitled Teddy Perkins, season 2, episode 6, where where Darius goes to find a piano, or he buys a piano from this guy who, his name is Teddy Perkins. He's obviously a clear mirror image of what Michael Jackson was in the later years of his life, just distributing bizarre behavior and everything like that. So it's wonderfully tense. It's so hilarious. So again, just this is not just the best episode of Atlanta's 4-season run, but this might be one of the best episodes of television ever, particularly for a comedy. So again, Atlanta season 4. I gave the season 8 out of 10 for a whole, but this will go down as just one of those great series that just is going to be remembered for all the different things that it tried to do, all the different things that it had to say. Brilliant writing, amazing music, everything like that. So check out Atlanta, which just wrapped up its 4th and final season. Hilty.
That's going to do it for this episode of SPDM TV. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe to anything and everything wherever you get your podcast. Join us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Blue Sky at SPDM Crew. Check out our website. Check out our website at com. Shout out to High Flyer Creative Studios for making our awesome logo. Greatly appreciate their support. And if you have any creative needs, contact them at highflyercreative.com. Check out the other shows in our network. We've got a lot of great content on there, and I'm really proud of the work that everyone's doing. We've got a ton of different things that you could ask for. So check out the other shows on our network. And if you've got a podcast idea or you're interested in being part of the SPDM crew as a guest or collaborating, email us at gmail.com. Until next time, happy watching, friends.